So, what if consciousness isn't actually in your brain? I mean, what if it's all around us and our brains are just receivers for some kind of universal signal? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty wild theory that suggests just that. Our journey kicks off with this pretty mysterious quote from the source material. It's basically telling us that the real magic isn't in the words we say or the thoughts we think, but in that silent place where the thought first comes from. That's the core idea we're chasing today, the actual origin of a thought. And yeah, that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? We can track every single electrical impulse zipping around in the brain. We can map every connection. But how do all those billions of separate little sparks become your single, seamless experience of the world right now? That's the big mystery we're digging into. To really get what this theory is proposing, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem it's trying to solve. And believe me, it's a problem that has kept scientists and philosophers up at night for centuries. The source has a great name for this. It calls it the materialist wall. It's this idea that by only looking at the physical stuff, the chemicals, the electricity, the neurons, we're completely missing the main event. We're measuring the dust kicked up by the thought, not the thought itself. Now, this is known officially as the hard problem of consciousness. And honestly, it's the ultimate question. How does that gray, wet, physical chunk of matter inside your skull create the rich, colorful, subjective world of your mind? How does plain old matter become a feeling, an experience? So, the solution our source throws out there, well, it's a bold one. It suggests we've been looking in the completely wrong place. What if consciousness isn't something that's generated by the brain at all? What if it's a fundamental feature of the universe that our brains just tune into? You know, like a radio picking up a broadcast signal. Okay, so if there's this kind of cosmic broadcast out there, how in the world does the brain tune in? Well, the answer, according to our source, lies in one of the absolute weirdest and most wonderful ideas in all of physics. We are talking about quantum entanglement, or as the source calls it, the quantum whisper. Just think of it like you have a pair of Margit coins. If you flip one and it lands on heads, you instantly know the other one, even if it's on the other side of the universe, will land on tails. The connection is instantaneous, faster than light. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. A classical signal, like a radio wave from a station, has to actually travel through space, right? It's limited by the speed of light, and it gets weaker the farther it goes. But an entangled state, that's not a signal traveling through space. It's a connection that exists outside of space. It's instant, and distance means nothing to it. This makes it the absolute perfect candidate for a non-local consciousness field. All right, so that leads us to the big blinking question, right? If this cosmic signal actually exists, what part of our biology is the antenna? How does our warm, wet, kind of messy brain connect with the super precise, bizarre world of quantum physics? Well, according to the source, the answer might have been hiding in plain sight this whole time. A tiny little gland right in the center of the brain that's been the subject of mystical speculation for thousands of years. And this is where the theory does something pretty fascinating. It connects ancient wisdom with modern speculative science. For centuries, yogic traditions have talked about the crown chakra as our gateway to universal consciousness. Well, this theory proposes that the pineal gland is the physical hardware for that gateway, acting like a transducer, a converter, that translates raw quantum information into neural signals our brain can actually understand. So this is absolutely crucial. The pineal gland isn't creating the thought, it's just the receiver. But here's the catch. For it to work properly, the mind has to be quiet. This is where things like meditation come in. Those deep, meditative states, the ones with slow alpha and theta brainwaves, are said to create the perfect signal-to-noise ratio to pick up these quantum whispers. Our normal, busy, everyday thinking, it's just static that corrupts the signal. Okay, so we've got a signal, and we've got a receiver. But is there any proof, is there anything we can actually measure in the brain that tells us this reception has successfully happened? The theory says yes, and it calls it a neural signature. And that brings us to gamma waves. These are the fastest brainwaves we have, and neuroscientists already connect them to something called binding. That's the brain's process of stitching together all the different bits of sensory information into one single experience. When you see a red ball, gamma waves are what bind the redness, the roundness, and the ballness into one single object in your mind. And this is the brilliant leap the theory makes. It claims that a big burst of gamma wave activity is the brain's signature for taking a complex, holistic idea it just received from the quantum field and instantly binding it into a single, understandable thought, that aha moment. It's the moment of reception made real in the brain. So let's recap. We have a signal, we have a receiver, and we have a signature. Now, let's put it all together and look at the whole picture of how this cosmic communication is actually supposed to work, from start to finish. Here it is, the whole process, laid out in 3 steps. First, you get into a state of deep mental quiet, that theta state, which opens up the channel. Second, the pineal gland acts like an antenna and receives the non-local quantum information. And third, bam, a flash of gamma waves instantly binds all that data into a single coherent idea in your conscious mind. The source gives this whole incredible process a name, metasensory communication. And it's the perfect description, right? It's a communication that happens beyond our normal 5 senses, through this amazing fusion of deep, quiet access and super fast, instantaneous processing. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. This is a wild theory, but can you do anything with it? Is there any way to test it out for ourselves? Well, the source actually provides a little practical exercise designed to do just that. It's called the dragon's gaze. Let's walk through it. First, you just gaze at a complex image for a full minute, just taking it all in, no judgment. Step 2, you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and just chill out, letting your mind quiet down to get into that theta state so the image can process subconsciously. Then comes the gamma push. You snap your eyes open and quickly try to solve a mental puzzle about the image, like, say, counting all the blue objects. The final step is to then hold that intense, focused observation for 30 seconds without putting anything into words. And that really brings us full circle to our final big thought. This theory, as speculative and out there as it is, completely reframes the question. It asks us to consider that maybe consciousness isn't something our brains just create from nothing, but perhaps it's a fundamental technology of the universe itself, and we are only now, very slowly, beginning to figure out how to operate it.